the Nonprofit Podcast, powered by Donorbox.
Successful fundraisers use a blend of strategies, software, and techniques to reach their fundraising goals, especially this time of year. Welcome back to the Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Kara, fundraising coach at Donorbox.
And I'm Jenna, the nonprofit advocate here at Donorbox.
We're here each week with practical actions you can use today to take your nonprofit to the next level tomorrow. Today, we're here to talk about those strategies, software, and techniques, those essentials that make up your year-end fundraising toolkit. And we've got a fantastic lineup to talk through today. Jenna, could you kick us off with an overview of some of the fantastic tools available for every organization to use during the giving season?
Yeah, absolutely, Kara. So as we enter the season of giving, nonprofits definitely have a wealth of fundraising options at their fingertips to consider, and it can be hard to decide which ones to use.
When you're overwhelmed like that, it can seem easier to just not do anything at all, right? Can you break it down a bit so it's not so overwhelming?
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're talking about those time-tested methods such as crowdfunding, peer-to-peer fundraising, membership programs, text-to-give campaigns. These are all really powerful tools that can significantly impact your year-end fundraising efforts for sure.
Okay, so you just shared 4 fundraising methods there, and these are tools you can use for fundraising. And I'll say that those work particularly well, especially at year end. Each of them do. So let's dive deeper into each of these methods. Let's start with crowdfunding. Can you share more about crowdfunding, why someone should even spend some time looking into it this season?
For sure. So crowdfunding can be very effective for nonprofits, whether they're established or just starting out, to raise those big funds quickly. And it's cost effective too. It's particularly well suited though for time-bound campaigns like Giving Tuesday or year-end campaigns, which is why we're talking about it now, right?
Yep.
And something that I want to note here, why it's so good, it's because the average crowdfunding campaign raises around $10,000. And an amount like that can be a major game changer for small nonprofits, for sure.
So what does an actual crowdfunding campaign look like?
So you can create this page, you can post campaign updates directly on that page, and then send email updates to donors and subscribers where they can subscribe right there on that page. So all within the Donorbox platform. And on top of this, Donorbox makes it really easy to share these crowdfunding campaigns with social media sharing links. So with just a click, folks can share it on their social media pages. And it also has virtual donor walls, which really serve as great social proof as people are trying to decide if they want to give to your cause. So it really motivates potential donors.
So if I'm a nonprofit leader, founder, or fundraiser, how do I know if crowdfunding is a good fit for my fundraising?
That's a really good question. So whether crowdfunding is the right fit depends on what you're trying to accomplish and the support that you already have in place for your organization. So for example, if your goal is to raise funds for a particular project or initiative like Giving Tuesday or year end or some sort of capital campaign, crowdfunding could be a really excellent choice. However, if you're just seeking ongoing support, continuous support, it might not be the perfect option. So to decide, you should consider just a few questions here. So first, ask yourself, what is the purpose of your fundraising campaign, right? So is it something that's time-bound, that has a set start and end date? Or are you looking to fund a specific program or initiative? Again, this is a very specific goal. And if yes, crowdfunding could definitely be a good fit. And then second, consider the power of your message. So crowdfunding is all about storytelling, right? So can you tell a compelling story about why the funding is needed? A compelling narrative can majorly boost the success of your crowdfunding campaign. And again, we're going back to these updates. You should be posting stories and compelling narratives, and you need to have that on hand for crowdfunding for sure. And then third, you need to think about your existing audience. Do you already have an engaged community that supports your organization's mission? If so, that's a really big advantage, as engaged supporters can help propel your crowdfunding efforts and share that page with their networks as well.
Those are really great. And that is a good way to gauge whether or not crowdfunding is a good fit. Sometimes all those really great ideas out there aren't good fits. So thank you for sharing that checklist of things to think about when you're setting that up. Let's shift our focus to the next tool, our next fundraising method, and that is peer-to-peer fundraising. Could you elaborate on what this strategy entails and why it's a valuable addition to the fundraising toolkit?
Yes, I am such a peer-to-peer cheerleader. So, peer-to-peer fundraising actively involves your supporters in your organization's fundraising efforts. So, instead of just donating to a campaign like crowdfunding, right? Individuals become active fundraisers for your cause by creating personal fundraising pages dedicated to your organization, right? This is really cool. They create pages based on your campaign and they get to tell their story, which is really neat. So, the primary benefit of peer to peer is just the big impact it can have on your organization's reach. And it increases that visibility and, again, expanding your reach outside of your immediate network because you have these people in your network, but now they're reaching out to their friends, their family, their colleagues. And those are people you may not have otherwise had access to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this means that you can raise more donations and acquire new donors to nurture as well.
So, what should our listeners consider before starting that peer to peer campaign?
If you are trying to decide if peer-to-peer fundraising is good for your organization, if it would be a good method, there are a few things to consider. So first, take a look at your staffing capacity. Peer-to-peer fundraising typically requires less staffing than other fundraising methods. I know that a lot of our organizations may be a fundraising team of just 1 or 2 people. So peer-to-peer creates fundraisers out of your network, which makes it a really excellent choice for organizations with those limited resources or those small teams. And then second, you want to assess your existing community of supporters. Are they willing and able to share stories about your organization's work and their connection to it? Peer-to-peer fundraising fully relies on these shared narratives. So having an engaged network is absolutely essential here. And then lastly, you want to consider whether you have time and resources available to get a peer-to-peer campaign up and running. It does take a little bit of work on the front end. Peer-to-peer fundraisers may need training and guidance, which requires a little bit more preparation. So once you've established training and toolkits, the campaign can really run itself, but it does take some time to curate.
Yeah, that training and guidance is really key. So, giving your supporters who are fundraising on your behalf some clear talking points and even some sample copy they can use in their email and social media posts to their networks can really be helpful. We've had some clients who've had some success with a video call to kick off a campaign. So, those fundraising for them have a chance to understand the campaign and it's some time to ask some questions. Thanks for sharing that. Peer-to-peer is fun. But I also know that crowdfunding and peer-to-peer fundraising can be hard to differentiate sometimes. So we do have a Donorbox blog post with a great visual image that helps explain this, and we will be sure to link it for you in the show notes. Okay, Jenna, let's explore our third method of fundraising, our third tool in our toolkit, and that is membership programs. What can you tell us about these programs and why should nonprofits consider them?
Yeah, you probably have lots of different ways to get people to give money to your organization, from direct mail appeals to regular fundraising campaigns through your online donation form. But there is another way. So what if instead of just asking people for one-time donations, you could ask them for something more stable, something that would help you build the kind of infrastructure that allows your organization to be sustainable over time. We all want this, right? So membership programs are a fantastic way to cultivate that focused support for your cause and generate that predictable revenue that you all need. So your members play an active role in advocating for your cause. So membership programs are built on the idea that supporters will pay a certain amount on a recurring basis for an ongoing benefit rather than just paying a lump sum upfront. So it's similar to how you might pay for your gym membership or how you might buy a subscription.
Mm-hmm.
And this model has been around for decades, but it's become really popular with nonprofits as well. And these types of programs really allow you to nurture these donor relationships more effectively And it gives you these tools you need to raise the money for your organization in exchange for benefits or services such as an insider newsletter or invitations to members only events. And what I especially love about membership programs, though, is that they really help you involve your supporters more closely and develop longer term donor relationships. It just really builds this really cool, close knit community around your cause.
Yeah, it sounds like membership programs can be effective to build that dedicated community around your cause. But I'm kind of curious, how does this differ from monthly giving programs? It seems like there could be some overlap there.
Yeah, that is such a good question. And one I've seen from our nonprofit community a few times for sure. So while both membership programs and monthly giving programs involve recurring contributions, the key difference here is in the focus. So membership programs emphasize offering benefits or services in exchange for that ongoing support, creating, again, that sense of community and exclusivity, I guess. Whereas monthly giving, on the other hand, typically involves donors making regular contributions without the same level of structured benefits. So it's more about consistent financial support as opposed to getting those extras, right?
Mhm.
Both approaches here are really valuable and donors like both of them, right? But they serve slightly different purposes in engaging your supporters.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense. So thank you for clarifying that for me and for our listeners. Okay, so thinking about membership programs, what should organizations consider before implementing one?
Yeah. First, ask yourself if you want to build a community around your cause, right? Of course you do. So, membership programs are really great at creating that sense of belonging and commitment among members. And then, second, you want to consider whether you need that reliable source of recurring revenue. Membership programs, again, can really provide that stability needed for your organization's sustainability. And maybe you're only seeing one-time donations right now, and you really want to amp up those recurring donations.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, you want to ensure that you have the right infrastructure in place. So, of course, you need to handle the billing and the payment processing effectively. And if you've got a platform like Donorbox, you can have a membership form right there on your website that makes it really easy. But you also want to make sure that you've got benefits to offer your members as well. So what are you going to offer them that is truly valuable? And you also need to be able to have a plan for consistent communications. You're giving them a little bit more care. Of course, you should give all of your donors lots of care and engagement and attention, but consistent communication and the capacity to do that, along with offering those exciting benefits, is really, really essential to ensuring that your membership program's successful.
Yeah, they're stepping in to support you and expect those regular communications. You absolutely cannot drop the ball or you'll dissolve some of that trust that they've put in you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for breaking that down. Let's go to our fourth and final tool in our toolkit today. So let's discuss text to give. Can you provide more details about how this mobile-friendly fundraising method works and why it's so important?
Text to give is a fundraising method that enables donors to give to organizations by using their smartphones. By simply using their phone's texting application, supporters can make donations to their favorite nonprofits anywhere, anytime, which is great, right? We live in a world of convenience, so that's really important. And we know that mobile giving has become increasingly popular and crucial because it provides donors with that convenience to contribute anytime, anywhere. And they're expecting that. They're expecting that convenience.
Right? Yeah, we all have our phones on us pretty much all the time.
That's why text to give is really popular. And Carrie, I love a good stat. So I dug up some stats to really back this up. So last year, 28% of online donations came from mobile devices.
Okay.
The average donation amount on a mobile device is $42, which is pretty good.
That's decent.
The number of transactions completed through mobile devices has increased by 50%. So you got to keep up. And what's cool about text to give is that it's really effective for marketing on the radio or even TV or during in-person events. And you can print it out. You can print out your text to give number at events for each table in a cute little frame or on banners to hang at community events or festivals, or you can put it on a big screen during a service. And adding a really clear call to action to that to give, text this number with short code this. Just makes it so easy.
So easy. And I think text to give is also working well on social media. So Jenna, what should organizations consider before rolling out text to give right now?
Well, the first thing you should do is ensure that your organization has a mobile responsive fundraising page and form. This guarantees that the donation process is really easy for people to complete on their phone screens. You want a form that fits in seamlessly on mobile, so there's no awkward scrolling, and that just makes it a really good giving experience. And then next, you want to look at your budget and your resources. Text to give is definitely an affordable option that requires minimal setup time and no major costs. However, a lot of fundraising platforms do tack it on as an add-on, which can cost anywhere between $20, $50. I think it's a cost that's well worth it, and it really pays back according to those stats, right?
Yeah.
And then you want to think about whether or not you're seeking an alternative way to ask for donations. So again, thinking about events or being on site or advertising. Text to give can really complement those other fundraising methods, even direct mail. It really just amplifies what you're doing, and it just gives people another way to donate, which is important. Now, lastly, if you want to encourage repeat donations easily, text to give is also an excellent option. It allows potential donors to contribute really easily, right? By texting that code or entering a donation amount. And the simplicity can lead to more donations from your supporters. And again, who doesn't want recurring donations?
Right. And, I will also say that text to give is a great tool for those last minute fundraising appeals as the year end approaches. You can send out text reminders to your donors, encouraging them to make a final contribution before the year closes.
Yep, I absolutely agree.
They can do it from their New Year's Eve party.
Yes, that's a great idea. And all four of these tools and fundraising methods are really terrific for those year-end campaigns. They build that general spirit of generosity and those social connections that are part of the season of the year. And they offer that convenience too that supporters are definitely looking for at this time of year because everybody's busy right now, right?
Yeah.
You can offer that convenience.
That is a good point to consider, Jenna. Thank you.
Yeah. And overall, it helps donors feel like they're part of something bigger, right? That means that you're getting more done in less time. You're meeting your financial goals, but your donors are feeling fulfilled as well. That's really important.
Yep. All before the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Eve. Jenna, these are really handy tools to have ready now so that they are ready to go when your supporters are ready to give. So thank you for taking the time to explain these. I know you helped clarify each of them for me.
It was my pleasure as always, Kara. And before we wrap up, here's a practical action for our listeners.
Perfect.
Choose one of these fundraising types, whether it's crowdfunding, peer-to-peer, membership programs, or text to give, and start creating a campaign for it in Donorbox. You can sign up really easily. Give yourself the time you need to get started. And if you encounter any challenges, remember that the Donorbox support team is here to assist you always. You can reach out to them at support@donorbox.org.
And do you want some extra support to help guide you through giving season? Be sure to check out today's show notes for some great ways to connect with Donorbox to get the support you need when you need it most. And as we wrap up this week's episode, we want to sincerely thank you for spending a little of your time this busy season with the Nonprofit Podcast. I hope you've left with the confidence to take a small step today that will make a big difference tomorrow. Be sure to click the download button on your podcast player, then leave the Nonprofit Podcast a review or give it a thumbs up if you're listening to the Nonprofit Podcast on YouTube. Your review really is a great way to help others find us. You're here to help others. We're here to help you. So until next time, stay inspired.
That warm feeling when you help someone, it's not just happiness, it's fulfillment. And we believe it should be available to everyone, from frontline heroes to first-time fundraisers. Our tools empower you to help others. This is our mission. This is Donorbox, helping you help others.